Now obviously it has not been a great period of time for the CS2 market, but focusing in on the Paris capsules first, we can see that it's been a bit of a struggle, especially over the past month. We've seen these drop down significantly in price. That's not too unexpected. Obviously the liquidity on these are huge and we know that's one of the first things people sell off, but focusing in on the Paris price on Buff is very interesting. That's because we see these capsules at only 16 cents each. To put that into perspective, during the actual sale, these capsules were going for potentially 21 cents each, which raises the question of, is now the time to buy? SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now focusing in on the Paris sticker, I want to focus in on one sticker specifically to start, and it's the mouse, but not the mouse hollow or actually the mouse glitter. It's the mouse paper. That's because if we want to look back at Stockholm and Antwerp, a lot of profit could actually be made by investing into these papers that were really desirable at super cheap price points. We can see the 3 cent price point, very popular, ended up being very profitable for ones like the Cloud9 and some other desirable ones. We're starting to see that here with the mouse. It's not to that point yet, but we've seen a pretty significant decrease in price for the paper specifically, and it's one that I've currently got my eyes on, just because if it goes down to 3 or 4 cents, it could be a very smart idea to pick some of these up, just because we know the status and the amount of value that people put on this sticker specifically. There's also some other papers that I do have my eye on, but they're just not valuable enough in the overall consumer size to go ahead and warrant that investment at the current moment. With that also being said, I don't think it's a smart time to pick up anything Paris wise. This includes your capsules, and this is going to include your hollows and your glitters in this situation. We just know how Paris is going to look for the upcoming months, and I don't think anything is going to see some pretty massive growth, just because we know the amount of capsules out there and we know the demand that this thing has, and right now it's really not much. We can look at all of the hollow prices and they're dropping down in price, and I honestly don't think even now they're too reasonably priced all across the board. They're still quite expensive compared to previous majors, and therefore they're probably going to be in a position to drop more, and investing into them wouldn't really make sense in this current moment. Now rare cases are something I'm extremely excited to talk about. The next video is going to be all about them, but we can see in the short term here, a lot of them are starting to lose a decent amount of their value, which in my opinion is a very good thing, because it could be time now to go ahead and start picking some of these up. That's what the next video is about. But we can see a lot of them have dropped a decent amount in price, and therefore I think it's a very opportune time to at least start looking into this area. When we're talking about the rare cases specifically, we can see so many of them have so many desirable things inside of them, and nothing has fundamentally changed since 6 months ago when we saw that major peak. A lot of them are down a little bit in the short term, but they're still on a massive growth trajectory in the 1 year, and I don't expect any of this to change when we're talking about the next longer period. I mean, we can see exactly what happened in April when everyone was flocking to the game. People are going to return to that state, and when they return to that state, if there's not a whole ton of content, or even if there is, they're always going to return to rare cases. They're the one thing that's never going to change in terms of unboxing numbers, and when that comes, the profit is going to be absolutely massive in my personal opinion. However, just because prices are down doesn't mean that everything is now suddenly a great investment, and the biggest example we can see this in is souvenir packages. If we want to look at the Dust 2 souvenir package, obviously we've seen a pretty massive amount of profit inside of this area, but hold on just a second. This is a discontinued collection. There's not going to be any more Dust 2, and it's really only seen very similar or worse growth to the capsules that we could see from that same major. If we want to look at any other souvenir package, it's performed significantly worse than the capsule overall, and that's just because of a couple different things. One, obviously it's quite expensive at a $3 price point, but two, no one is opening up old souvenir packages. This is a major problem. People look at previous souvenir packages pre-Katowice 2019 and see how expensive they are. That's because it was a completely different drop system then, and they had a finite amount, whereas now we have an infinite amount and there's just way too much supply compared to the really low demand that these get. However, right now is a great time to go ahead and hop into some safe investments. Now obviously we got rare cases, but I'm more specifically focusing in on Stockholm, Antwerp, and some like collection skins. We can obviously see, if we look at Stockholm and Antwerp, the massive amount of growth they've gotten over the past year, but even more importantly, we know exactly what they're going to do. We can obviously see the major drop they had when Paris came out, but that's not going to happen again in my personal opinion. Now that's priced in, obviously people know Paris is an alternative, and even if Copenhagen comes out looking the exact same, it really probably won't have too much of an impact on Stockholm and Antwerp, at least at this point in the longer period. In the short term, it could definitely drop down the price a little bit. This is extremely important because this makes it a crucially safe investment, because we know exactly what it's going to do moving forward. We know the growth it's going to see in collection skins as well, just because they're always discontinued and they're always going to be desirable as long as you pick the right collection. And one important detail to remember when we're talking about these safe investments is this is safe as in the longer period of time. Obviously, if we want to look in the short term here, they have all decreased in price, which is really a testament to the fact that everything is going to decrease in price, but the things that are great investments are going to outperform everything else long term. However, it might not be just the time to buy yet. That's because in the previous video, we talked about the autumn sale. And what's interesting about the time of the autumn sale is it was actually the cheapest time in the last 6 weeks of the year last year to go ahead and buy things. During December, prices got a little bit higher, and even during the winter sale of December of last year, we really didn't see too much for price changes, which is a very interesting dynamic. Now, focusing in here specifically, this is obviously not something that's guaranteed to go ahead and replicate. Last year during this time, we had a little bit of a change with the M4 dynamic, which you could argue played an impact, but it shouldn't really impact things like your AK. And we also saw a slight dip for a lot of these cases during the time. Now, with that being said, it doesn't guarantee this is going to replicate, but I do still think it might be a little bit in your best interest to go ahead and take some of your money and hold off a little bit, maybe just a week or two, to see if the prices are going to decrease. I don't imagine we're going to see a massive spike up in price, so the fact that they don't decrease, you're probably not going to lose out on a ton of growth, but that's just my personal opinion on where the market's at. If you're really scared about it, you don't have to, and you can go ahead and buy in today if that's truly what you want to do. However, a very important piece to determining if you're buying at the correct time is going to be looking at future updates and what we got planned down the line. Now, first up, we obviously have the Copenhagen Major. That's the only guaranteed thing that's up next for us, but there's a lot of other things that could also play into this. After all, we haven't seen a brand new case in almost a full year. We're starting to approach that point. We're only a couple months away at this point. Operation, we're over 2 years since we received a brand new operation, or at least the start of one. So there's definitely more than enough opportunities for Valve to go ahead and introduce something if that's specifically what they want to do. But at this point, the only thing guaranteed is that next major, which is a couple months away. Now, if you were looking to buy what items specifically, well, first up, obviously the rare case market is so strong long term, and the fact that we're seeing it pull back this significantly with unboxing numbers still quite strong, I think is a great opportunity. Otherwise, honestly speaking, I would keep my eye on Paris, but I would probably go for either Stockholm or Antwerp capsules. Those are once again in a very strong position, and I do love Paris long term, but I think in the current format of the market, it would just make more sense to go ahead and pick out a safer investment. However, we still haven't answered the question of if now is the correct time to buy, and that is obviously up to you. Now, we don't know specifically what's on the horizon, but if you're very confident that we're going to get a brand new case or an operation in the next upcoming weeks, it might be better to just go ahead and hold off. I don't expect that we're going to see any major amount of growth, honestly speaking, in the next couple of months if we don't see any updates. I mean, we can see the current decline of players, we can see the current overall unrest inside of the community. No growth is going to happen overnight when the current position of the market looks like this, and therefore you can make your decision based off that. But that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.